What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host, Caleb. If you want to support me, you can now follow me on Patreon. Not only is it the best way to help out the channel, additionally, you'll get more say in what decks I cover. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons, Newsome, you rock. Additionally, you can always use that TCGplayer link in the description down below to help out the channel. Now, let's get into today's video, and today I just wanted to look at the Ixalan set and talk about what cards are actually going to make my list. Everybody does this whole preseason, we hype up all the cards, but at the end of the day, how much of these cards are actually worth a slot? So we're going to go into it and talk about what cards I'm actually adding into my personal decks. Now, the first thing we're going to start out with is my Eliver cEDH list. We're going to add Dauntless Dismantler. Not only is this going to shut down Dockside Infinite combos, additionally it's going to slow our opponents down, which is exactly what this deck wants to do. Cutseal is also going to be an amazing piece in the deck. Not only is it basically a Grand Abolisher minus a few things, it's also going to provide us card advantage since the majority of our creatures will have more power than their starting power, which is going to be amazing in the deck. Sovereign Oakenek is also going to make this list. Again, what this deck does is it shuts down everybody. So once we get there, we just need to start beating face and killing people. Sovereign Oakenek can make that happen very quickly, which is what Stacks decks need. They need a quick way to end out the game, otherwise they suffer and kind of just dirtle and slowly kill everybody and give people a chance to get back in the game. We don't want that. We want to kill them as fast as possible, and this card can make that happen very easily. The other thing I'm adding, which is a little bit maybe controversial, is I'm adding the Green God. Now, I know this looks like a Timmy card and honestly doesn't look cEDH viable at all, but I found in Eliver, the one thing you want to do consistently is make sure you drop a creature once per turn, because if you're not making your board bigger and you're not getting more creatures to smash face with your opponents. The other thing this is going to do is it's going to be basically a tutor, right? We can easily get this guy to 10 plus power. So just being able to draw or dig 10 cards deep and grab the exact hate bearers we need to shut down our opponents can be incredibly impactful, especially in a cEDH setting where we need to shut down specific strategies. I know, again, it looks slow, looks kind of Timmy, but I think it's going to be amazing in this commander specifically. Not every commander, but I think this one specifically can really abuse this card. Might be right, but we're going to test it out. Gyus, Waker of Corpses, has also got a ton of tech from this set. Brass's Tunnel is going to be amazing. It's basically like a one-sided wheel, but you get to choose what you discard, and you'll always end up netting cards, right? So if you discard 3, you get 4. Pretty busted. And then once we discard enough cards, descend enough, we can flip it and basically get that Explore mechanic on our next cast, which is also going to be pretty busted. So it's ramp, it's card advantage, and we get a busted explore mechanic on top of it. I'm down. The Great Door. Now this one I think is just going to be busted in any deck that wants to end up with their graveyard bigger than their library, which is decks that I love to play. I've played this cup, I got a chance to play with this, and I have tapped it for 40 mana. Tapping it for 40 mana, pretty busted, felt disgusting, and it did win me the game, right? If you can't win the game with 40 mana, there might be an issue, right? Another thing that we're adding is the Roaming Throne. Gyus is a Hydra, but at the end of the day, I really just want to double up on his attack trigger. The other thing that we do get is I think we are running Colonian Hydra in the deck, so now we get a double up on that attack trigger as well, but that's just a side note. Getting double triggers off of Gyus is going to be amazing now, especially since I did add the Master Multiplied to the deck. If you don't know, the Master Multiplied is going to make it to where you essentially don't have to sacrifice the tokens you're reanimating. So now they're more permanent and extra combat steps work with Gyus now, as long as we can get the Master Multiplied on the battlefield. Because the other thing the Master Multiplied does is it prevents it from sacking itself. So we can even reanimate it with Gyus and it'll be a token, but it won't sack itself. Pretty busted. Moving on from that though, we are also adding Souls of the Lost to the deck. Guys, this is a 2-mana 40/40. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. I was able to sack this to Gerard to kill a whole table. It's not fair and honestly pretty busted in any deck, again, where you're trying to get your graveyard bigger than your library, which Gyus does on a pretty consistent basis. Squirming Emergence, also pretty good in those same kinds of decks, right? Because essentially it's like, hey, look at 40 cards, decide which one you want and throw it on the battlefield. Squirming Emergence, 3 mana, gets whatever you need. Pretty busted in this deck. Tyrion's Journal, this one I'm going to test, but I think it's going to be good. Yes, you have to discard your hand, which is why we're playing it. The card advantage, it might be alright early game, but really we're just going to try to discard our hand and flip this, and then we're going to get the ability to cast creature cards from our graveyard. The only thing is they will have those finality counters on them, but Gyus is no stranger to exiling creatures, so again, this is going to be the perfect deck for him. The Skullspore Nexus. Guys, this card's just not okay. One, we can double Gyus's power, which is going to enable us to reanimate bigger things. Pretty good there. Additionally, whenever our bigger things die, which we do want to sacrifice them before we have to exile them, that's kind of what you want to do in Gyus, you're just going to get a token that's that creature's power. So now we're creating a board state when we're not supposed to be. That's how Gyus is balanced, right? I mean, I think he's painfully balanced in my opinion, especially with existing commanders, but Gyus is kind of balanced because you reanimate something massive, and then you have to sacrifice that thing or exile that thing at the end of combat. But if we sacrifice it, now we get to keep at least that creature's power in the form of a dinosaur fungus token. So again, sounds kind of busted to me. The other thing we're adding a lot of cards to, or at least 2 cards to, is Anaka. I love Anaka, and we are also adding Roaming Throne to her, because again, you just choose enchantments, and that's going to work for a lot of creatures in the deck and provide a lot of value, especially with Anaka's attack trigger and ETB trigger. The other thing we're going to be adding is the Great Door as well. Again, in decks that want to throw a lot of cards in their graveyard, it's really good. And additionally, the Great Door is just really good in Anaka to discard those massive enchantments we want out of our hands. That way we can reanimate it. So I'd play the Great Door just for its discard effect, and then we get that broken effect that makes it tap for a ton of mana. So it's kind of a win-win here for me. Not only do we get to discard the big enchantments early game, but late game we just flip this and we can straight up cast those big enchantments using the Great Door. Also, not attempting to pronounce that. F that. It's just the Great Door, all right? We're also getting some Heny cards. I'm also adding the Green God to Heny because blitzing this guy out, digging deep, throwing a creature onto the battlefield for free sounds pretty busted, especially in Heny since it is an all-creature deck. You're not going to whiff. No shot. And then additionally, we are adding Bringer of the Last Gift. This is essentially a living death that's on a creature, but you have to cast it. Here's a tip with Heny. If a creature is ever balanced by having to cast it, throw it in Heny. It's no longer balanced, and it's just broken. That's going to do it for the deck, guys, or the deck. That's going to do it for the upgrades to my current decks. If you guys want this to be a normal thing, you guys want me to talk about more upgrades, or you want me to do this by a set basis, I would be curious to, see how you guys like this video. If you're interested in seeing more of these videos, if you're interested in just seeing maybe I take a couple decks that I've already built and upgrade them with current new cards and throw them into videos like this, really curious to see how you guys receive this video. So as always, I would like to thank my high contributing patrons, Newsome, Chicken Salad. You guys are amazing. Couldn't do it without you, as well as all my other patrons. You guys really make this channel work. With that being said, I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you guys in the next one.